Hello, wrestling fans, and welcome to episode 247 of the We Can't Wrestle podcast. The brothers Maxon here with you. I'm Nate, that's Aaron.
Hello, everybody.
And this week, we continue our journey through the WCW NWA Clash of the Champions series. We are into 1989. It is Clash of the Champions 5. It is February 15th, 1989, from the Cleveland Convention Center, and we will get into it momentarily. And before we get in the time machine, I just wanted to acknowledge yesterday, as we are recording, the passing of world-class championship wrestling announcer Bill Mercer, who was 99. So, he lived a long, good life. I'm like, it's too soon. But no, 99 is a long, good life.
It is.
Bob Caudle and Cowboy Bob Ellis are duking it out for oldest fogey in wrestling now. But in all seriousness, I wanted to comment on Mercer because tell me if you think this makes sense, Aaron. He definitely was an integral part of the peak period of world-class championship wrestling with the Von Erichs, with the Freebirds, with Gino Hernandez, Chris Adams, Jimmy Garvin, all that cast of characters. And my thing about Mercer is Bill Mercer served such a good purpose. And the thing I'll say is I akin Bill Mercer more to Gene Okerlund than I do a Gordon Solie or a Jim Ross or someone like that. And the reason I say that is he was decent at calling the matches, I guess. But where Bill Mercer's talent was doing those segments, teaching us about the wrestler's personality and personality profiles and doing interviews. And he was so good at that, like Mean Gene level. So I guess that's my thought on Bill Mercer.
I was just say it's a guy like that needs to be able to, a guy like that, he was good at getting the guy to where they needed to be too. You know what I mean? Like take somebody that's not maybe that great on the mic and get them through a serviceable interview. And I mean, imagine how hard it was to interview those Von Erich boys. You know what I mean?
Dang.
I'm not even saying anything like, I'm not even trying to be like negative, but you know what I'm saying? Like Gary Von Erich doing an interview, Jesus, that was probably a struggle. And I'm sure he had a lot to do with making it coherent. And like they did like those remotes, those were always fun. Like yeah.
I was gonna say the two that stick out in my head the most that are probably my favorites are when he's at the Freebirds house with the Freebirds where they're playing pool, and then I always think, I don't know why I think it's funny, but I think it's funny him duck hunting with the Von Erichs. I don't know. I don't know why I find it humorous, but he's out duck hunting with the Von Erich boys and their dad. Like I said, an integral part of world class for sure.
Yes. So Godspeed or whatever they say. I don't know what that means.
Rest in peace, Bill Mercer.
Yes.
So I know you were saying before we went on the air, we're just doing the movies this week. We're not doing the music.
Yes. Just the movies, because like I said, the songs, I don't even think I knew them. And I didn't, at least not enough to write them down. But anyway, like I was telling Nate, February 89 is pretty rough for anything that's not WWF, because 89 is like my second favorite year for that company. But two movies, February 89. It's not the same movies from the last time we watched, obviously. So didn't know if you wanted to try to guess or if you just want me to tell you.
Okay, so where I find that where I'm halfway there most of the time with this is I can think of when a movie came out, like what year it came out, but I can't necessarily think of the month it was out. So I'll take a couple of guesses on what might be in the top. Are any of them any of the two a comedy?
One of them is.
Is it? Okay, so I'm going to say. Okay, I'm going to say either Bill and Ted or The Burbs.
Neither one of those.
Ah, fuck. All right.
The number 2 movie in America was Three Fugitives, which is a funny movie. You remember that movie?
Three Fugitives. Who's in it?
It's Nick Nolte and Martin Short, and they have that baby or that
Oh,
little girl,
yes. Okay,
and they're
yes. All
running from the
right.
law. Yeah, it's like when Martin Short's robbing a bank and Nick Nolte has just gotten out of prison, and just it's a good it's funny. It's a little unknown movie to a lot of people. Maybe not a lot of people because it was number 2, but it's an '80s movie that not a lot of people remember. But I thought it was funny. And then the number 1 movie. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I was just gonna say, once you said it, it jogged my memory. But God, I haven't seen that movie in probably fuck. It's been over 20 years since I've even seen that movie. But
And
once
I
you
think
said
the
who
little
was in it, it came to my
I think
mind.
I can't remember who the little girl was. Can't remember if it was that little chunky girl that was in like every movie that had like curly hair. Like I don't know if it was that girl or what, but um the number 1 movie is a movie that everybody seems to like, and I never liked it. I thought it was boring when I was a kid, and I was like, oh, maybe I didn't understand it. I'll watch it now, and it's still boring. I feel like nothing happens in this. It's one of those movies where I feel like nothing happens in this movie.
Let me take a stab here. 89. I assume it's not a comedy.
It's not. It's got some supposedly funny parts, but it's not a comedy.
Shit, I don't know. Go ahead and tell me. I don't know.
It's Rain Man. That
Oh,
movie's
yeah,
fucking
definitely.
boring.
Watmer's on it for. Yeah, definitely Watmer's on it for.
Nothing happens. Like he drops some toothpicks and finds out that I don't know. It's like, oh my god, this movie's so fucking boring. Nothing happens.
There are movies like that, though. You're not wrong. There's movies where like people are like, it's such a good movie. Then you watch it and you're like, I don't even know what was I
Nothing is
supposed to. Yeah,
happening.
what was I supposed to gain from this? Like what?
Like something came up the other day on my Roku and was like, "Do you want to watch Simon Birch?" Like I watched that movie one time. Nothing happens. The most exciting thing that happens is Ashley Judd gets hit by a baseball, and then the little midget kid saves some people from a bus. That's it.
What is this movie even supposed to be?
Like, nothing happens in this movie. That's what it sounds like. I don't know. Like when people are like, "Did you watch that movie about the priest at Conclave?" It's like I am not watching that.
I don't feel like I want to watch a movie about how they pick the Pope.
Nothing's gonna happen. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
nothing. Like there's not gonna be like a chase or yeah, like nothing's gonna happen in this movie. Then there's movies where too much happens, and then I don't like that either. But I'm just like, I need something going on here. Something's gotta happen. Something's either gotta make me laugh or something's gotta happen.
Yeah.
I doubt there's any one-liners in Conclave.
A Pepe the Pope.
They're just like, yeah, the freaking Pope. Anyway, it's my
Just thinking of
whatever rant about movies.
but yeah, I
move on
actually
to us here.
it's funny that you said that because I just was seeing that I just saw a thing about Conclave the other day, and I literally said to myself, I'm not watching a movie about how they pick the Pope. It's not
Yeah.
happening.
Like, what's the end? Just the smoke? Like, okay.
We pick it a Pope.
I'm good. I'm gonna freaking Pope. I think that's the least populated. I think I looked it up though. I think that's the least populated um, country in the world though, because I think Vatican City is technically a country.
Yeah, it counts as a nation. Yeah.
Yeah, I think because I was like, what's the least populated country? I think I said it was that. I think that's kind of interesting.
I was thinking about that fucking Craig Ferguson bit about the Pope's shoes and everything. A paper to Pope. A paper to Pope. All right. Anyway, Clash of the Champions 5. And we kind of discussed it last week that we were going to be heading into a new booker. And I wrote down here, you'll notice in this show a lot of new faces coming in because that's what happened when you get a new booker, and at this time wrestling, even though it was getting or it was moving more towards sports entertainment because of the WWF, there was still a booker type situation going on at WCW. It wasn't writers or anything of that nature, or like just corporate people like it would be during the Monday Night War era. I'm stuttering a little bit here, but I'm getting to a point. You can see a difference. You can see new stars here. We see that Dusty's gone, Steamboat's in. Like we said last time, Ole and Arn are gone now. J.J. Dillon's gone. Barry Windham's about to be gone. He leaves right after this Great American Bash that we're building, or not Great American Bash, but Chi-Town Rumble that we're building to. He's not even featured on this Clash of the Champions. So I thought it was cool to see the pre-show commercial on the network.
Yeah. And it is Cleveland, Ohio, and it's Cleveland Convention Center, 5,000 people. So they had a drop off from the last time they are on, and Magnum TA's on the announce with Jim Ross, and like you said,
Tony's gone. Another one that's gone. Tony Schiavone's gone.
Out. Yeah, Tony's not around, and it's just that you can see where some people that were really comfortable decided they were going to go be uncomfortable and see how it was over there.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then it's funny how some of them come back because they're like, we thought we were working a lot over there. Jesus Christ. This guy's a crazy man. But
it was so stressful for Schiavone, his mustache fell off.
Now, he said he regretted it.
And he went because of Dusty. He was kind of loyal to Dusty, and Dusty was gone, so he left. He got word, got an offer, and took the offer because Dusty left. Dusty doesn't go to the WWF for about another year, but
everything like he said on his show, he said he regretted leaving Vince. Like he said he would if he would have stayed in WWF, he'd probably still be working in their production studios if they would have let him. And
so
wouldn't even have cared if he was on TV.
Did he ever say why he left? Was it because he felt did he not like? Was he one of those people that didn't like the way that Vince overproduced him, or?
No, he said he wanted to like stay just like doing what his main job wasn't even commentary when he got there.
Mm-hmm.
Like his main job was like working and like putting those Coliseum home, like a lot of those Coliseum home videotapes and stuff that you watch at that time, and the stuff with Sean Mooney, like the little skits and shit. That was Tony.
Okay.
Like he was putting that stuff together. He said he loved being down in that vault or whatever, like putting tapes together, finding matches, doing all that shit. Like he only wound up on commentary because I can't even remember what he said caused that, something with Monsoon or something. But and then WCW just offered him more money, and he got there, and he said what it was like when I left to what I came back to. He said he was there 6 months, and he was like, "Oh my God." And he reached out to Vince, and Vince just wasn't interested anymore. Vince just said, "Well, you gotta do what's best for your family, and you gotta stop moving around so much, I guess." Which is Tony's way. He said he understood that as I'm not interested anymore.
Yeah,
like, okay.
Don't call me anymore.
Yeah.
Stop calling me.
Yeah, because Vince does not care about your family. It's kind of like when Ric Flair told Dynamite Kid, "Oh yeah, we're not hiring anybody from the WWF right now." And my kid was like, "Oh, that's bullshit. You're not just hiring me from the WWF."
Right.
So I'm sure if Hulk Hogan called, you'd be like, "No, we're not interested."
We're
But sorry, didn't mean
yeah,
to.
that's okay. We get like Aaron said, we get an intro. JR and Magnum TA do an intro. They're kind of running down this card, but also hyping up the Chi-Town Rumble pay-per-view because it is 5 days after this Clash of the Champions. We head to commercial. We get a nice little ad, Coors Light. I like to write down the commercials. And then it's the Midnight Express against the Russian Assassins with a non-mustachioed Paul Jones, who's about to also be hitting the bricks. Um, I always thought it was funny they introduced the Russian Assassins from Kilos, Russia, which does not exist. There is no Kilos, Russia, by the way.
Is there something that sounds like Kilos, Russia?
I don't think so. I know Kilos is like their what is it? Their weight of like measurement of weight instead of pounds, kilos. But instead, they introduced them as a combined weight of blah 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 pounds from Kilos, Russia. I always thought that was amusing. Like, why don't you announce them as X Kilos from Moscow, Russia, or something? But anyway,
And I did write down. See, I'm glad I made the mistake last week of watching a show and then watching another one, so I mixed up some of my notes. So, like you said, this is a mustacheless Paul Jones. He must have known he had a job interview coming up, so he wanted to clean up. Um, but this once again is Jack Victory and the Angel of Death. I looked it up so we didn't get confused. Paul Jones and Jim Cornette, they're having their little interactions during this. I did like with the fact that the Midnight Express didn't change anything about themselves, you
yeah,
know,
yeah,
except Jim was a little more, um, I
smiley.
want to say, smiley with the fans, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But when it came to like their tactics and everything, they didn't change when the match was good. Jim was a little more playing with the crowd and shit like that. But in the ring and like Jim still using his racket and cheating and shit, like they still did that stuff, even though they were supposed to be like, quote unquote faces at this time. So I did like that. I don't know. Might be a
And
dumb note, but
no, it's not. And it's you got Paulie Dangerously on commentary because since we last left you, Paulie Dangerously has brought Dennis Condrey and Randy Rosen as the original Midnight Express. There's going to be some things on here that I'm going to say that people may or may not agree with. One of them is going to be a biggie, but this one I don't think anybody will disagree with. As far as the studio WTBS studio World Championship Wrestling, one of the coolest things that ever happened in that studio was the Midnight Express deal. The
yeah, Midnight
original,
versus Midnight.
yes, that initial angle, with Paulie kind of, calling or whatever, and Cornette saying, you little bastard, and blah, 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 because they'd been doing the gimmick in the AWA, just doing it like they were coming in, invading, and not doing any kind of skits or anything like that. And then Cornette wore the white suit, so he had the blood all over the white suit, and it
Yeah.
looked, for the day, it looked very like this isn't supposed to be happening, kind of a thing. And I don't know. I always thought it was a very well done angle.
And the old Midnight started shit so they could get it into the back end of the NWA,
Mm-hmm.
and it was a cool angle, and it showed like the depth of what the gimmick was, and kind of acknowledging a gimmick before it got to be, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
yeah. So I enjoyed it, and everybody was really good. Randy Rose, he was a good worker. So, and they had really good matches, and it's like, oh, they found Paulie, and they're like, oh, we found the one guy that can maybe make Jim a good guy, you know,
Yeah. Yeah.
that type of thing. So, um, should come to no surprise that the Midnight go over here with the rocket launcher on Jack Victory for the 1, 2, 3. I think it's funny because I don't. As we were going on, I just kept calling it Jack Victory and the Angel of Death, even though they were the assassins. But yeah, Jack Victory, 1, 2, 3. Your winners, the Midnight Express.
And then after that match is over, which the match was fine,
Oh,
a little long, but I understand. I understood the point. The point was actually more to have Paulie on commentary to talk up the match coming up on Monday. I get it. You know, you're trying to sell a pay per view. And speaking of selling the pay per view, we come back and Uncle Bob Cottle is standing by with Ricky Steamboat, who has entered the NWA since last we left you. He's going to be challenging Ric Flair for the world title on Monday. Family values, etc., etc. And we'll get to the big thing in a minute.
excuse me. You can edit that out. I forgot to hit the mute. You were much nicer in your notes than me. Oh, Bob Connell interviews Ricky Steamboat and his fucking baby.
I have more on that during his match and then the Flair Steamboat segment. But yeah, I think
And
we're on
then
the same page.
instead of talking more about Flair, he's talking about supporting coming back to the NWA to support his family and fight against drugs. It's like Jesus Christ. Who's telling you this is a good idea? You look like $1,000,000. And you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
and like you're one of the smoothest fucking wrestlers in the world. You look like $1,000,000, and every woman out there, even though I'm not even saying he has to, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But at least on television, every woman in that arena wants to get with you, and you're bringing out your baby and your wife in her prom dress. It's like, what is going on, dude? You just crushed all your heat. None of these guys are gonna be happy with you because you look
Right.
whipped, you know. And
Mm-hmm.
then none of these women are gonna. I mean, they'll still maybe cheer if you take your shirt off, but they're not even gonna care about it the other way because you're out there with your wife and your fucking fat baby. I know I didn't want to scoop your rant,
Oh no,
but
that's
yeah,
fine.
it's like, oh my god.
I actually I guess I'll just talk about it now because we are building toward the first of the Flair Steamboat matches of the series, the big series that I know that, and I'm not in any way, shape, or form saying that these matches between these two guys are not great. They are great matches. And Dave Meltzer can have his opinion, and anybody can have their opinion as to what a great match is. It's whatever you think a great match is. And again, not denying that these matches aren't some of the greatest matches of all time, but I don't look at Steamboat and Flair's matches in 89 as the greatest matches of all time. I just don't. I think they're really good. I also think the one is obnoxiously long. Um they're great. They're great matches with two great athletes, but I can name 5 matches off my top of my head right now that I'd rather watch than those. And again, it's just me. It's just me. So I don't know if a lot of people just are of that observer crowd parrot Meltzer and say they are the greatest matches of all time. If they really feel that way, and that's fine too. But like, I would rather watch Kurt Hennig versus Bret Hart from SummerSlam 91. I would rather watch Shawn Michaels versus Kurt Angle from WrestleMania 21. Shawn Michaels versus Undertaker from WrestleMania 25. Um, I'm just saying, like, I don't know how you feel about it.
I feel this way. I'd rather watch. I think their best match that I've ever seen them have is that match from Spring Stampede '94.
Mm-hmm.
But I also think that's the greatest pay-per-view in WCW history.
It is a great
Um,
pay-per-view.
I think it's their greatest. Just like this is the greatest pay-per-view that company ever did. And then I obviously I think they're great matches. I'm not saying they're in my favorites of all time.
Mm-hmm.
What I would say it is I think it's the greatest. It might be the greatest series of matches of all time, if that makes
Okay.
sense.
Yeah.
Like a
Yeah.
trilogy of matches. I think it would be that
Mm-hmm.
one.
And I can see that. And again, I was in no way, shape, or form trying to take the piss out of anybody that does think they're, you know what I'm saying? I wasn't saying that at all. If somebody loves them, they love them. And God bless you, because you know what? When you sit down in front of your TV to watch wrestling, you don't have to watch what I tell you to watch. I'm going to watch whatever the fuck I want to watch, you know? But yeah, I just, like I said, I think that it's, you know, there's more matches I'd rather watch. So after this segment with Steamboat, we get Butch Reed versus Steve Casey.
I don't think I want a match that went too long.
Yeah, it did go too long. I actually put down here, though, I thought it was a good match.
I thought it was boring.
Really? And as the match went on, even though I don't think they knew who the fuck he was, the crowd got into Steve Casey. Yeah, I didn't mind this one.
My notes are, this is pretty boring. Wow, this is still going. This is boring. And then in big letters, please end this match.
I'm not gonna lie. When I first saw it, they first showed like the wide shot of the ring, because like I say, a lot of these Clash of the Champions, it's not that I've never watched them a few times, but I haven't committed them to memory or anything other than the big moments. But when I saw the first wide shot of the ring, I was like, is that Butch? Is this gonna be Butch Reed versus Buck Zumoff?
But
and then,
no, it was not.
And then they centered in, and I was like, okay, it's Steve Casey. I know who that is.
No, this thing was boring as shit. Reed ends up hitting the flying shoulder block, which they call the bomb, on Steve Casey for the 1, 2, 3, and it just was way too long. I felt like they were just doing moves. I was just like, oh my god, this had the same effect as Williams last week with the Italian Stallion.
Mm-hmm.
Where it's like this is a guy you're trying to say is like this super powerful, awesome guy. And no offense to Steve Casey, but he's taken him for like 17 minutes.
Right.
This should not have been a 17-minute match. Just my opinion.
But no, Butch Reed pins Steve Casey, like Aaron said, with the shoulder block off the top. Then we get this is the segment that everybody's always seen, even if you haven't watched this Clash. You've seen this on some kind of a DVD or something. The Ric Flair comes out with Hiro Matsuda and a bunch of girls on his arm in a big fur coat.
Some of the ugliest call girls I've ever seen in my life. Did you look at some of these?
Yes.
The faces on some of these women? It's like, oh my god. That is, they were ugly.
Maybe that's why Flair was just offering them off to people. He asked Bob Caudle if he wanted one. He asked Steamboat.
Bob was like, they were all like, nah, man.
I was like, I'll just go home to my homely wife. That's fine.
Yes. I'll go home to from Hilda Caudle.
From Hilda Caudle. Yeah, that's funny though. Flair's trying to give him away like the Godfather gave away his hose.
So unless they had like that Jerry Seinfeld episode with Bryan Cranston where she's in the bad light.
Yes.
You know what I'm talking about? So unless the lighting was bad, and in real life these broads were
Cleveland
in life.
Cleveland has the ugliest call girls.
Yeah, in life it was like, if this is real life, I'm like, they either had to find these ones quick or what, because it was like, these girls are nasty looking. I'm not even trying to be disrespectful, but
well, compared to what they normally present is what you're saying. I'm gonna be nice for you.
No, I'm saying they were ugly.
Well, Flair pretty much comes out, cuts a promo on the difference between he and his Steamboat. You know, he's
Steamboat's like, have you seen my wife? That's the difference. That's the chick I'm walking around with. You're walking around these. I'll leave it alone.
But what they're essentially doing here, of course, is trying to across the fact that Ric Flair is the jet flying, limousine riding, kiss stealing, wheeling dealing, and Steamboat is the family man. And like we were kind of alluding to earlier, the crowd, the men in the crowd, are not going to be cheering for Steamboat.
Nope.
They're booing Steamboat. They're cheering Flair.
They're cheering for the guy that's getting the poon and drinking and
Yes.
partying, and the chicks like him because he's apparently single and he can take you on his jet. Ricky Steamboat, he's not going to be able to put you in his station wagon and the old family roadster.
This segment does have one of my favorite Ric Flair lines of all time, though.
Yeah.
Go ahead and help the missus with the dishes, pal.
Yeah. Oh no, the segment's great, and the idea of it's great. Like I said, I was just a little taken back by I forgot or maybe I never noticed, but I'm like, oh, Flair's choice this month was this day was bad. But yeah, go help the missus do the dishes, pal. Like,
I
and
love the
they
pal at the end, by the way. I love
yeah,
pal at the end.
and this is a redo because they did this um back in the day. I think it was still when Mid Atlantic when they had him beat him up and rip his clothes off because I think that's the one where he's like, "Where's a turkey like this fit into my plans?"
Yes.
You know what I mean? He's got his picture, and they ended up beating him up. But yeah, just but it was now being seen by a broader audience, and you can describe more of what goes on, but yeah,
Yeah, essentially, Flair winds up, crossing that line with Steamboat. Steamboat's character gets pissed, goes after Flair with the physicality. The fur coat comes off, and then, of course, the $1,500 suit, the $2,000 shoes. He rips off the suit. Flair winds up in his underwear. Steamboat runs Flair off. And then he like wraps himself up in the remainder of the suit and says, well, this is what a $1,500 suit feels like. Trying to get over the fact that he doesn't need these things. And again, it just with a I don't know, with a male wrestling crowd, that whole thing is just not, especially in the late 80s and going into the early 90s, it's just not going to work. I mean,
yeah,
it didn't work for Bob Backlund in 82, you know?
yeah. And with him wearing
So
the black glasses, and I don't know, he looked
what
ridiculous.
what I
And
will say is the crowd kind of turned. I don't know if we got a tugboat going by outside or what, but anyway,
the train.
um,
Congratulations to him getting in the Hall of Fame, by the way.
old tugboat, old Fred Ottman, yes. But what I wanted to say to give Steamboat some credit, because I know we've been dogging on the Family Man thing. It's funny because the crowd's kind of booing him when he's playing up the Family Man thing. Once the action starts and he starts a whooping on Ric Flair's ass, then they love it.
That's
You
what
know what
I'm
I mean?
saying. If he'd just leave the Family Man stuff alone, it's like people are into you when you're beating some ass and taking some when you finally stood up for yourself,
Yeah.
you know. But then when you just kiss your baby afterwards, everybody's like, "Oh my god, dude, we get it." But it's funny in wrestling though, because when a wrestler gets stripped down to his underwear, he's embarrassed.
Yeah. But then he comes
You
out
know,
later and
but then
wrestles in
he
his
comes out
underwear.
and it comes out in your underwear and it has a match. Like it's the same thing, bro.
Yeah.
It's
I've
kind of
never.
it's kind of like when it's like, oh, you can't see that lady in her bra and panties, but you can see her in a two-piece bikini at the
Yeah.
beach. Like, what is the difference?
Well, it's just like I've never actually. I'm sorry, and I know It is what it is. You can build up that a guy loves his beautiful head of hair or whatever. I've never understood why hair versus hair is embarrassing. Like, you're just getting your head shaved. Who cares? Your hair's going to grow
And then,
back.
but then it never grows back. It's like, only in wrestling.
Yeah.
Once your hair is shaved off, it never comes
It
back.
never comes back. Yeah. So after the Flair Steamboat segment, double duty for Jack Victory here at the Clash of the Champions. He is the masked blackmailer who, for some reason, is managed by Matsuda. I know it's because Barry Windham's going to fit, but I just think it's funny when it's like, Hiro Matsuda found this fucking job guy.
Yeah, he's the manager of the champion, but he's also managing the blackmailer.
The blackmailer.
Why don't you put Paul Jones at the blackmailer? Believe that.
Blackmailer wrestling Lex Luger. Lex Luger is going to be wrestling Barry Windham for the United States title at the Chi-Town Rumble.
What makes him a blackmailer?
Maybe that's how he got Matsuda to manage him. He's got some fucking dirt on Matsuda and those.
I got pictures of you with them ugly hoes.
Oh no!
Oh no!
I just pictured Jack Victory blackmailing Hiro Matsuda. But you can be Jack Victory. Fine, I'll be the blackmailer.
Blackmailer.
But yeah, it's essentially Lex Luger versus Jack Victory as the blackmailer. This match goes, I don't know, maybe like 10-ish minutes just a showcase for Lex Luger. Went too long once again. But 89, this starting up here in just a bit. From mid 89 until 92 when he left is my absolute, that's peak Lex Luger to me. The next couple of years, absolutely the best Lex Luger. He didn't have the great music yet on this show. I was expecting my Lex Luger music that I love, but it didn't kick in just yet. No. I love that fucking Lex Luger music too.
That whole era there of WCW, all their guys had like badass music.
And actually, I wrote down. It's funny that you said that. I was gonna say it at the end. But I'll just say it now. To me, to my mind, 1989 to 1992 is peak WCW.
Yeah.
I know that technically, business wise, the peak is 96 to 98 or whatever. But this is peak WCW to me. We're about to get into a couple of years of very enjoyable world champion. There's bad shit too, like Big Josh and all that kind of crap. But
I'll extend it though. In my personal fandom, I'll extend it. I say 89 to 94.
Okay.
It's actually like 93 and 94.
Mm-hmm. And I'm not saying I don't. I'm just saying this is the peak. The next couple of years is the peak WCW for me.
And a lot of times when people
the bullshit.
Yeah, because a lot of times when people say things like, I sometimes be like, really? Let's look like everything was better. Every guy was better before he went to Vince. It's like, really? Every guy was better. You know what I'm saying? Like that type of comment.
We've talked about it on the show here before. There are those people that just want to be anti-WWF. No matter what, they just want to be anti-WWF. It's like, oh, shut up.
But one thing I can wholeheartedly say without a shadow of a doubt is WCW was so much better before Hulk Hogan showed up.
Yes.
And you ruined it, Hulk Hogan.
And another thing I can say 100% is to what you were just saying. There is a guy that I will say, Lex Luger was much definitely better in WCW.
Because they just let him be himself. Vince always wanted him to be a character.
Vince always wanted to be something manufactured by the company. The WCW, he was just Lex Luger being Lex Luger. And, So he defeats the blackmailer with a superplex, obviously, to rub it in Barry Windham's face because that's Barry Windham's finishing maneuver. And again, 5 days Chi-Town Rumble, which we won't be reviewing but that's the show coming up. Luger versus Wyndham. I know Luger wins because Wyndham's about to jet. Wyndham's going to go to the WWF for 6 months. Then his dad and his brother are going to get caught up in a counterfeiting scheme, and Wyndham's going to leave. And which sucks because the Widowmaker thing, they called him the Widowmaker, but he was just Barry Windham. It's not like they made him play up the gimmick with like a hat or something stupid. So it actually really worked, and he had some good matches, and I think it had legs, but it just didn't work out.
Nope. And we finally get something good.
Yes, an interview with Rick Steiner.
Well, that and the match coming up, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Anytime Rick Steiner's getting interviewed, I'm going to enjoy it. And, I mean, old Ricky Steiner, I have a couple of notes down, and I think I've said it a lot when we've talked about this era of time, but like from the time he turned face up until about the time that they put him with his brother, and mind you, he was still over with his brother. I think he was the most over face in the company, in my opinion.
He was pretty fucking over.
Probably, I was super fucking over.
I'd say him and Sting.
I think he was even more over than Sting. But that's just my opinion. But yeah, I mean, that dude was fucking over like Rover, man. In my opinion.
Well, and he played it up perfectly because he played it up like he was kind of simple. An underdog. People like an underdog. Kind of simple, which makes him, relatable. Not relatable, but sympathetic. Maybe relatable to some simple people. And also, the best thing about it was then he gets put upon, he gets run down, he gets called essentially a retard by, and then he gets in the ring and he just beats the fuck out of these guys.
Shit out of you.
Yes, and it's fantastic.
So, like I'm saying, like who's not gonna like this guy?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Guess what he's not doing? Kissing a baby and bringing his old lady around.
I know it's not exactly. It's not exactly.
He's talking to his hand and saying, "I'm gonna fuck some people up," without saying, "I'm gonna fuck some people up." And then guess what he does? He goes out there and he fucks some people up. He's the best, man.
And I know it's not exactly the same thing, but I think whoever came up with Eugene in the WWF had watched this Rick Steiner stuff.
Possibly.
I know it's not the same. I know it's a different kind of, he's a different kind of, but what I'm saying is he's the simple guy that kind of an idiot savant because once he gets in the ring, he's really good.
Yeah.
And I don't know.
I don't think they ever actually said Rick Steiner was retarded, but
no. So the next match is for the United States Tag Team Championships. It is Steve Dr. Death Williams and Mike Rotunda, the Varsity Club, defending against the Fantastics. I think Sullivan and Rotunda had actually won the titles, and they're doing like the Freebird rule kind of thing here, if I remember correctly.
They are, because they've been bringing up in this thing saying.
No, I guess I didn't notice in the commentary.
You can't decide who you can't prepare for it because you don't know who it's going to be.
Mm-hmm.
And Maggie's complaining because he doesn't agree with it, but I just saw it and I'm like, okay, this is good. And I know we kind of dog Mike Rotunda, but he's actually like, an actual good wrestler.
Yeah.
Obviously. And anyway, I just think I was like, oh, finally, my God, something good's going to happen. And I don't know if I said it last week, but if I didn't, I really think it, like this first 5-show run of Clash of the Champions, the Fantastics are like the MVPs, man. They've been on like everyone, and they've had like if not the best match, the second best match on the entire show. And I put in, I don't want to monopolize this or whatever, but I know they're not mainstream talents, but I don't think the Hall of Fame needs to be mainstream all the time, obviously, especially now. I think they should go in at some point.
Yeah,
I think they deserve it, in my opinion.
I won't disagree with that. Um, because they garnered results everywhere they went. They always, I, what do I say? I think that the only thing that ever hurt the Fantastics was whenever, I'm not advocating that because I like the Rock and Roll Express more, but I know you like the Fantastics more. So I'm not advocating that the Fantastics were lesser than the Rock and Roll Express, but I think in the perception of a lot of fans they were. So I think they got hindered by the fact that they kind of followed the Rock and Roll Express around a little bit for a long time.
Mhm.
So they
I'm
always
not even
seemed like,
saying like I don't know if I'd say more or less with either one of them because I don't I think they get compared a lot by some people, but they're different. They're different teams.
mm-hmm,
You know what I mean? Like the Fantastics are more badasses than, or portrayed
right.
more as badasses, in my opinion, than what the Rock and Roll Express were. But I just, I don't know, I just think they were such a good fucking team, and they don't get enough credit. I don't think. And just this little run that they had at the beginning, I don't know if it's going to continue. I don't know if they're into the next one because, like I said, I didn't want to get ahead of myself.
Mm-hmm.
But this little five clash run that the Fantastics have, I'm like, man, this is. I forgot about this, and it's really good. And
To be honest with you, I think they're on their way out. But I
possibly,
haven't watched ahead either, so but I think they're on their way out. But this match, like Aaron said, this match. I don't know if you have any. I didn't really take any specific notes on the match, other than it is a really good tag match.
I just had observations. Like the other observation I had was this was the if they could have got it done, this would have been the Doctor Death. This would have been the era Doctor Death that should have went and wrestled Hogan.
Mm-hmm.
Like put him with Mr. Fuji or Jimmy Hart or something. And this is the guy that should be wrestling Hulk Hogan
Yes, agreed.
if it was ever gonna happen. Because I was like, man, I don't know if Bobby and Doctor Death would work together. But I could see like Mr. Fuji with Doctor. I don't know why, but it's like I see Mr. Fuji with Doctor Death more than any other WWF manager. I don't know why.
Hmm.
If you don't put him with Fuji, you put him with Jimmy Hart.
Yeah, I mean
I don't know why it is.
WWF's gonna not gonna present him like this anyway as like a collegiate guy. So yeah, I mean it could because WWF's gonna present him as they present their big menacing heels. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, Fuji could definitely work with Doctor Death, and so could Jimmy to an extent. You're right. But I now that you're saying it and I'm envisioning it, I definitely can see Fuji with Doctor Death, and then every once in a while he teams him up with the Powers of Pain or something.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, Williams and Rotunda retain the U.S. Tag Team titles in this matchup. And we've talked about a couple of matches on this show that should have been effective squashes, and they were not. They were too long. The next match is just right. And it's a really good enhancement match. It's Ricky Steamboat against Bob Bradley. Other than at the beginning, when again, Steamboat's out with his fucking wife and his big headed baby.
I put Ricky Steamboat with his fucking baby and Bonnie.
But after they get the fuck out of Dodge, Ricky Steamboat
I don't
and
know who
Bob,
the ring announcer. I was about to say I don't know who the ring announcer was,
the
but
ring
actually,
announcer, the
I
ring
think it was Jack
announcer,
Reynolds.
yeah, it was Jack Reynolds, the original host of Primetime Wrestling, actually, with Jesse Ventura.
So I just
Um,
imagine Jack Reynolds being like coming down the aisle, accompanied by his fucking baby and Bonnie.
Jack Reynolds,
Ricky the daddy steamboat.
Jack Reynolds is one of those guys smells like Old Spice.
Yeah.
When you look at him with his bouffant hair and his dark glasses.
Smokes Lucky Strike.
Yeah, he smells like Old Spice and smokes. Yep.
Lucky Strike cigarettes, no filter in the breast pocket.
But he knows a guy that
He's
can
gonna
do
say,
anything.
yeah, but he is gonna say some racist shit. Just be ready for it. It's gonna come out of nowhere too. You're gonna be like, "Whoa, Jack!"
Yeah, Jack's gonna go, I don't have anything against black people, but but yeah, I don't know if you agree with me, but I thought the Steamboat Bob Bradley match was an effective
It was
enhancement match. Bob Bradley
exactly
did
what it was
good.
supposed to be.
Yes, and Steamboat, of course, was fantastic. Bob Bradley, little trivia note for anybody that doesn't know, was Battle Cat in the WWF in like 91.
Yep. He was also a referee in WCW, and not to be morbid, but died in a car crash just a little bit before Rick Rude, and he was in like that crew of guys with like Rude and Flair, or Rude and Hennig, and all them West Texas guys, or like you know what I mean, that group.
Mm-hmm.
He was in that, or not West Texas guys, like the uh, Minnesota guys. Like he was in that group.
Yeah.
He just didn't have the career that they had. I don't know what it was, but like he had actually had a longer, I think, had a longer, more successful run as a referee than he did an actual wrestler.
I think you're right. Yeah. But yeah, again, effective squash, or not squash, but enhancement match. Wasn't necessarily a squash because it was about 6 minutes, maybe, but perfect time.
That was a
Um,
terrible idea.
what's that?
Metal Cat was a terrible idea.
Oh, yeah.
It's like
And
they
then the
were just
next
trying
match,
to make a tiger. They were just, sorry, they were just trying to make a tiger mask, but it's like this isn't gonna work. It's
yeah,
dumb.
it was too cartoony. It was definitely not Tiger Mask. Next match, another kind of enhancement match because the Bushwhackers have left Rip Morgan, the sheep herders, I should say, have left Rip Morgan up the fucking river. They've headed to the WWF.
He was like, "Are you taking me to the WWF with you, mate?" And they were like, "No,
No, matey, no.
what?"
But it's Rick Steiner versus Rip Morgan and another effective enhancement match here. Just to get Rick Steiner on the card, get him over, headed into the pay-per-view on Monday.
And Jacko Victory and Rip Morgan were like the Dwayne Gill, Dusty Wolf of like WCW, where they were like the main, or Barry Horowitz, Dwayne Gill, if he didn't say that, where they were like the main event jobbers.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like every once in a while they'd give them a little something. You know, they had like a trading card or a gimmick, and they were there for like ever.
Yeah.
Like this is '89, and I'm watching um um it just got into those videos or whatever, those files or whatever that I ordered from that guy you hooked me up with, and
Mm-hmm.
they've just made them they just hooked him up with Lord Littlebrook, and he's their manager now, and they got like a little gimmick where they're the, oh, what the fuck were they called? The
Oh,
Royal Family. The Royal
yeah, the Royal
Family.
Family.
And they got little Lord Littlebrook as their manager. I'm like, this is actually a cool gimmick. And they don't keep Littlebrook very long from what I remember, but I'm like, I've never seen like two normal guys have like a little midget manager that had the same thing, and he's like, the midget's a heel. I mean, it's kind of funny, but cool. And they look ridiculous, but they look cool. And anyway, I don't want to get off on a tangent, but I like Rip, and I like Jack Victory. So
Mm-hmm.
just wanted to give him
Oh yeah, one of my
plug.
one of my favorite, like low key, one of my favorite favorite like shit heel tag teams of all time is Jack Victory and John Tatum.
Yeah.
You know, I love those guys as an act too, with Missy Hyatt. And anyway, yeah, Steiner beats Rip Morgan here, but like I said, a good match to get Rick Steiner over heading into the pay-per-view. This next thing is fucking stupid.
It's one of the dumbest things ever, and it's why Tenru went out. Did you know that too?
Yeah.
His promotion saw that, he saw it, and he was like, I gotta go. Like, I'm not sticking around here. It
So
just made me look foolish.
The main event of this show is the Road Warriors and Tenru, who are the 6-man tag team champions, because we talked about the last Clash of the Champions. Since the Road Warriors, or since Animal technically beat Dusty Rhodes, the Road Warriors got to keep the 6-man tag team titles. They picked Genchiro Tenru as their partner. They're supposed to be defending against Michael Hayes, Junkyard Dog, and Sting. They do a promo in the back. Hayes, JYD, and Sting do. It's kind of funny because Michael Hayes, of course, does the bulk of the talking, but Junkyard Dog at this point has become a real-life mascot. Yeah, we got a bone to chew on, baby. Like, he is, anyway, we got 3 big bones. He actually says that in the fucking, we're 3 big bones. But anyway.
I think Sting forgets what he was going to say.
Yeah, because he's like, you tell him, Michael.
Yeah, I don't know.
Oh, he says, you tell him, Michael, I'm way too excited.
I can't remember shit.
They're probably all thinking about the stupid shit they're about to do. Because as they cut the promo, they go down these stairs into what's supposed to be their dressing room, and then, like Snidely Whiplash, Kevin Sullivan comes in.
With like a little lock.
He might as well. I don't even think the chain had a fucking lock, did it? Like, I didn't even notice a lock. In the initial scene. Okay. But yeah, he comes in, like I said, he's like Snidely Whiplash. He should have had a fucking pencil mustache. And locks a gate to lock Michael Hayes, Sting, and JYD.
One guy that probably weighs, what, 245? Michael Hayes? Probably weighs 245 pounds. Sting's probably 260.
At this point, JYD's at least 300.
Yeah, he's over 3 bills.
He's junk food dog at this point.
He's junk food dog. These 3 men or whatever can't just run through that fence.
And not to mention, so you're telling me that in a building that has to be up to code, there's no other door downstairs that they can exit through? Yeah. It's just so stupid. It's just so...
Yeah. Go out the back door and walk around the building and come to the front door.
Right. Yeah, it's fucking stupid. This is so dumb.
Like, one of my favorite segments of all time is that forklift thing with Kane and Big Show. Big Show's trying to move that forklift or whatever, and then Kane comes in behind him and taps him on the shoulder. He's like, "What?"
He's like, "I just went out the other door. There was a back door.
There was a back door. I just went out the other one." And Carlito's like, "God damn it, man! He's so stupid." Because it was like, that's one of the most logical things I've ever seen.
Yes, absolutely.
Let's like, whoever wrote that fucking door. Like, whoever, I don't know who wrote that. I'm like, that's one of the most logical things I've ever seen in wrestling history.
But yeah, but anyway. This whole deal's stupid, because then the Road Warriors and Tenru are in the ring. The Varsity Club heads to the ring. I don't know if it's supposed to be officially a match or not, because somebody rings a bell, but then it's almost treated just like a fight.
Yeah, it's dumb.
So yeah, it's Sullivan, Rotunda, and hold on a minute. Sorry, folks. I just want to look on Wikipedia to see if it's listed as It's listed as an official match because it says the Road Warriors. I guess you're right, because there's a double DQ. But it just felt, I don't know. It's also dumb that I guess I just zoned out and was just watching what was occurring. So then at the end, because there's a double disqualification, Sting and Hayes and JYD apparently have figured out how to get out of their debacle.
Well, Doug Dillinger cut the lock.
I guess
Finally.
I missed that too. I don't know. I was zoned out during this because like this is
They're
this is
also in
so
this big
stupid.
building, and they're obviously in the back, of this building of an event like this, and it took them 20 minutes to find a pair of bolt cutters. Like, really? 20 minutes to find bolt cutters? Anyway, the whole thing is just dumb.
And then
Put in here. This might I said this might be one of the biggest stupid angles ever. If we
and
were
then
gonna do a
also
list of like stupid angles, this would be on it.
to add insult to injury, because the Road Warriors are waiting so long for their stupid opponents to be locked up and not be able to come to the ring. Their stupid opponents, they have to wait for their stupid opponents. So I had to listen to WWE Network's stupid version of the Road Warriors entrance theme longer than I normally do. I hate that fucking. Like there are certain like WWE Network themes that some of them are funny. Some of them aren't terrible. Like the one they used for the Midnight Express is actually pretty cool. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's a close simile to
Yeah.
it.
And then some of them are funny. The way that that they're like that's kind of like the one they used for JYD when he's in Mid South.
Yeah, because all the people are like dancing to it
Yeah,
and
that
stuff.
one's funny. But that
So if
fucking Road Warriors,
somebody would see that now and not know what
they
that
would
it was,
think that was his music.
and not know that everyone bites the dust or whatever, people would be like, man, like some kid would be like, man, people were jamming to that shit in the 80s. This song was tight. And it's just the fact that it's not a big crowd, so you literally see like the people dancing to it.
Yeah.
Like everybody's getting funky to it, and Reacher Bowden kind of bopping to it. It's like,
but yeah, that Road Warriors one is fucking annoying.
Yeah, why don't they just use the Iron Man thing that Vince Russo used in WCW? Because I've watched Nitros where he comes out to that Iron Man thing, and it's still on the network.
Yeah, because that was a Turner. That. Yeah, it was like a public domain thing or whatever. But they choose violence instead and make me want to. But yeah, this thing ends again, double disqualification. Then Sting, JYD, and Michael Hayes come out, do their thing, and then Jim Ross and Magnum TA say goodbye. Wraps up this Clash of the Champions, and it's funny because I know we do the. Have we gone up, down, stayed the same?
This was bad. This is the worst one we've watched so far.
I tend to agree. Definitely took a step back from last time. I was trying
There's
to
only like two things on the whole show and I actually enjoyed thoroughly.
The Fantastics match.
The Fantastics match and Flair and Steamboat.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, I enjoyed like Ricky's or Steiner's promo or whatever. I'm a Rick Steiner fan, but that's not enough to sway my opinion. A 30-second promo and a 2-minute match. You know what I mean?
But right. Yeah.
It was just.
And I thought that as a team, JR and Magnum did well as a commentary team.
Oh, they did. But I'm just saying, what was out like. There were just too many long, boring, pointless matches at a shitty angle. And like I would have ended it. I would have rather this show end with Steamboat beating up Ric Flair.
Right. Yeah.
You know what I mean? But I just thought it was a dumb little. I thought the whole show as a whole was just bad.
Well, we're into 89. Things they are changing. We're going to have some ups and some downs coming up as we go through 89. We're going to have things like Flair and Steamboat. We're going to have things like the fucking New York Knockout, but we're also going to have the Ding Dongs. So it's going to be fun. It's going to be fun to go through 89 and these Clash of Champions because the company, like I said, things are changing in WCW. It's always fun to watch. And with this show, even bad shit is good because we can just make fun of it.
Yep.
So, Aaron, I don't know if you have any parting words for our listeners before we sign off, because my bladder is full.
Nope, I was gonna tell you two things before when we were done. So
No, that's fine. And I want
just
to let
I
want to let everybody know, if you would like to come on the show and discuss one of these Clash of the Champions with us in this series, email me, wecan'twrestle@gmail.com, or you can message me on Facebook directly. Join the WNR Facebook group and Facebook page for updates and different conversations in wrestling. And you can also, again, get a hold of us. And that being said, we're going to sign off this week, and we'll see everybody next week as we head down to Louisiana for the Raging Cajun and Clash of the Champions 6. We'll see you next week, everybody. Rest in peace, Bill Mercer, you old bastard.